this formula right here, I told you, make sure you have that on your study sheet, right? And really, for most examples, like realistic examples, you're not gonna have the parts and labor as well. Like most private purchases would just include, the first couple of items, and quite often either safety or lien is not added either. So if things are not there, the formula just is a shorter formula, right? Like that's all I'm gonna remind you of, right? If there's no safety but there's a lien, right? Make sure you cover that up, right? And then it's like, okay, then my formula reduces to that. So this is a very general formula. But parts and labor are usually done separately on like on a test. It'll be a separate question where it's only parts and labor, but it could be added. I'm just saying what happens most of the time, right? But you should still know that if there are any parts and labor, any repairs, any work being done on the car, you just have to tax it 12%, right? So just remember that. Okay, so we're going to go to example 3. I'm going to go over that. I gave you the answer already, but just in case, I want to make sure you you know what to do there. And then I'm going to give you some class time to work through the questions that follow, and we'll go over those, and we'll see if we start finance today, like the financing part, right? Okay, so Gord is buying a used car from a private, right? There's a private owner, because remember, if it's used, you want to ask yourself whether it's private or dealership, right? If it's private, then you're only paying 7%. And the car is worth 16,500. He gets a diagnostics done. That's just diagnostic is when when a mechanic, some of you are mechanically inclined, right? They might plug in a computer or a reader to your car and see what's wrong with it. Engine work is done for $650. Labor cost is $50 per hour for 3.5 hours. So you have to watch out there. You have to multiply those two to get the total labor cost. You need 4 shocks at $82 each. There's that safety, right? Safety is done for $40. The book value is $14,000. Okay. How much is paid for the car in total, and that's after tax. Okay. So let's get the parts and labor out of the way first. Parts and labor, right? I'm going to dedicate a section here, and then I'm going to use that formula I gave you above. So parts and labor, we have $90, right? Plus $650 plus $50 an hour times 3.5 hours, right? So I multiply these two together in here. Then I need 4 new shocks, and they cost $82 each. And that would be it for the parts and labor. So let's do another line here where we clean it up a bit. If you have a calculator with brackets, you can definitely type this in all in one shot. Okay. So, but I'm going to do this in steps. So 3.5 times 50, that's 175 plus, I will do the attendance in a bit. Okay. So if you're wondering, I didn't miss you yet. I'm just getting started so that you can have some work time. Look at this, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 1,243 in parts and labor. Yeah. This is before taxes. I'm not adding taxes to it yet. Before tax, right? And now I'm going to use that private, right? A private sale. You start with the actual purchase price of the car, which in this case is $16,500. You are going to pay that, right? Whatever you agree with the other owner, that's definitely you're going to have to pay that. Plus taxes. So you're going to find the PST, right, that you pay on that, which is the greater of the two. So the book value is 14,000. The actual car is 16,500. So you're going to use the 16,500 in your calculation here. And then we're going to multiply that by 0.07. That's very important that you remember that. Right? So I will do this in your notes here. There's 14,000 and there's 16,500, and this is the one that makes it into that bracket. Basically, it's the winner. Okay. Plus, there's a safety done. That's $40. And that one gets taxed 5%. So yes, that one you go times 1.05 because you're literally wanting to know $40 plus 5%. This is how you're going to get that. And then they don't mention a lien search. So you omit that, but you do have your parts and labor here. That's this, and we're going to add 12% tax to that. Okay. So this is the PST calculation. This is the purchase price, right? Plus PST, plus safety, plus parts and labor. Right? That's essentially how this goes. And there's no lien. Okay, so it's just not mentioned, so we kind of forget about it. Okay, then I'm going to clean you. So if you have brackets, you can actually do this all in one shot because this is clearly showing us your work. You understand, right? You're following. So I'm still going to break this down. Right, this gives you 1,155. 40 times 1.05 is 42. Plus 1,382.08. Okay, so all the brackets have been cleaned up. Now I'm just going to go backwards because this is already my calculator. I'm just going to add up going backwards. Oops. And that is 19,000. Uh-oh, it doesn't match my answer. So it could be that I changed it. So I apologize if that happened to you. I have 16,500 in my original 11. I think I may have not changed this when we went from 13% to 12%. That's probably what happened here. And I never changed it on my key. Morning. Let me just check. Yeah, something went wrong there. So anyways, this is correct. I'm just going to double check. 1, 2, 4, 3 times 1.12. Maybe I made a mistake here after all. So I'm going to check. Oh, this is supposed to be 1392.16. So I did make a mistake while entering this. Morning, morning. We're on page 7. Okay. So please correct this. I made a mistake. I entered it wrong, most likely, as I was doing my work. So double check. And that's where showing your work is extremely important, right? If you show me all of this and then somehow your final answer doesn't add up, you're still showing understanding, right? You're showing that you know what's happening here, and you most likely just typed it in wrong. So my answer is still okay, this one that I gave you. So I must have typed typed it in wrong there. So that stands. Okay, so make sure you write that down. And while you're writing this down, if you're paying attention, I think a lot of us, if you haven't purchased a car privately, like if you go to a dealership will collect the taxes from you. They'll actually charge you, right? But if you're buying private, who gets the PST? The owner you're buying it from? You might think so, but it's actually not true. You know, when you pay this, when you go to insure it, the MPI agent, they will look at the car, or they will look at you will have the word is escaping me, but it's a document you made up, a sale document, right, that you made up where it's stated how much the car was sold for. Bill of sale, there you go, thank you. And I'll show you a bill of sale. Uh, so that bill of sale will show how much you've paid for that car. Then you go to AutoPack to insure it, and they will look at the book value, right? It's like, okay, you bought it for 16,500. Our book indicates that your car is worth approximately 14 grand. So you're gonna pay on the 16,500. Okay. So and then you pay them the PST and they give it to the government. Okay. You don't give it to that person. So at first you can get away with just paying the 16,500 until you go and insure it. Then they calculate. But still, this is exactly how much you would have to pay in total, right? And you can call MPI, any broker. You can call them. It's like, hey, I'm looking at buying this car. Could you give me the book value? I actually did that last year when I bought a car, and they're like, yeah, it's this and this much. So you kind of you can expect a certain amount, right, that you need to put away, because it may differ from what it actually is, right, depending on if their book value is higher or lower. Most of the time, their book value is lower, just to be on a conservative side, but that's how that works. Okay, and so the 1155 would be paid at the time of insuring the vehicle to that AutoPack agent. Okay. All right. So I think I'm gonna add something here. Okay, folks. Let's say this question asked, because it has happened before. Taxes paid. If this question asks like, hey, how much did you pay in taxes only? So please add that if somewhere. If you ran out of runway here, I think page 8 has a blank page. Okay, but I'm not. I promise you, I'll fit it in here. If they ask you taxes paid only, not the total amount paid, but taxes paid, what you would do is, I will write it out again, right? You would say, well, 16,500 times 0.07, right? That will take care of the PST. Plus, let's go back to the safety, that would be 40 times 0.05, not 1.05. And then the parts and labor, you would multiply that by 0.12. So all the ones are gone. Okay, there were any. The PST had 0 or anyways, so that's fine. Okay, and then this gives us 1155. We have already calculated this. This second part gives us $2 because we saw how the 40 jumped to 42, so that's 2. And then this last part here, I will calculate that again. That's 149.16. And so the total taxes paid in this case would be this. Taxes only, okay? That's just an aside. That's an extension to what we've just done, right? Most of the time the question is interested in the total paid. But if they were to just ask us for taxes only, you would not include the purchase price, right? Like that would not go. You would just do the PST, the GST that's charged on the safety, and the 12%, right? PST, GST paid on the parts and labor. So you change this to 0. This one here goes to 0, right? And so forth. And for, I think I didn't mention that, but for a safety, if you're mechanically inclined, right, you can go to a mechanic and get them to do a safety, right, a safety check, and then they'll tell you which parts of the safety did not pass. And then you go YouTube, right, how do you change brakes? How do you, how do you do this, that, shocks, right, whatever. And then you can go do those repairs yourself, and then you come back and let them check it again. And if you pass, you pass. If not, you might have to go back and redo it. The one thing that I will tell you that it's a lot of work and money is if there's rust on the floorboards or on the sides, that is going to be a significant repair. So that I don't know, if you're confident, go for it, but it's going to cost you a lot. So I would stay away from that. But if you look at the car, somebody sells it as is, and you look under the car and there's not a lot of rust, everything else can usually be worked and dealt with, right? Okay. Next page. So this is blank. We're going to use this tomorrow. So don't write on that just yet. So let's go to page 9 and onward. 9 and 10. So pages 9 and 10, I want to give you some work time to do those. I will give you the answers in a bit. Okay. Do pages 9 to 10. And I'll give you some class time to do that right now. So in the meantime, I'll be taking the attendance, and then I will give you the answers to some of these, and some of them I will actually go over with. So go ahead and do that right now. Pause the recording for now. Okay, so if you go back to question 1, I'm going to start going over these questions. Okay. So see how you did. Okay. So again, we covered buying new, and now we're in the used vehicle section. And when it's used, you have to ask, is it private or is it a dealership that you're buying from? So Scott is buying a used car, and it's worth $2,400. It's being purchased at a dealership. There's not much else going on here. Okay. If it's at a dealership, you don't have to use that long formula because it's just 12%, right? So dealer, because you're buying it at a dealer, right, it would just be the 2,400 multiplied by 1.12. Okay, that's all you're paying there. And that is 2688 on the money. Okay, there's no book value, there's none of that. Okay. If there had been a trade-in, right, the trade-in would have had to be taken off here before adding taxes. Just remember that the trade-in we covered in the buying new section, right? Next, Michael wants to buy a used car, right, and needs repairs and maintenance. The price of the car is, right, the car is 15 grand, same as book value. So when they're same, then yeah, you'll see what happens, right? The details are listed below. $40 for a safety inspection. It's not always going to be $40, by the way, but you know, it seems to be a common value here. Calculate the total cost of purchasing the vehicle through a private sale, right? Include taxes. So in this case, this is the parts and labor, right, section right here. It was given to us in a table, okay? So engine tune-up, that's 300 bucks. So we're just gonna add that here, 300. Tires need to be replaced, 4 times 200. I'll do that here, 4 times 200. That is 800 bucks that we spend on tires. Oil change, 5.5 liters, and it's $18 per liter. So we go 5.5 times 18. That gives us $99. 3.5 hours of labor, and it's $125 per hour. So 3.5 times 125, that's $437.50. Okay. Then there's a safety inspection, and that I'm going to keep that separate because that's safety, right? I'm just going to leave that for later. But the parts and labor here, parts and labor would be a total of, right? Let's add up 300, 899, 437.50. That gives us 1,636 and 50 cents. So that's my parts and labor. I'm going to underline that for now because I'm going to need that. Because remember, this is a private sale, so you have to use that longer formula that I gave you, noting what parts are in there. So I don't know if you want to make sure you cut this off here, right? That would be parts and labor. And this is safety. We're going to use that later on in our calculation that we're about to do. Okay. So private sale, you have that formula on your study sheet, right? It's the actual purchase price, which is 15,000 plus the greater of the book value and the purchase price goes in here. In this case, they're exactly the same, right? It's telling you that the price that you're going to buy it for is the same as the book value. So that is the number that goes in here. And you're going to multiply that by PST, which is 7%, which translates to 0.07, plus, we're going to talk about our safety here. And we're going to multiply it by 1.05 because we're going to add 5% to our safety. There's no lien search mentioned, so that would go next according to my formula, but it's not there, so just don't worry about it. So we're going to do the parts and labor, and that gets taxed 12%. Okay. So all of this will give you the total that you're paying for that vehicle. So that's 15,000 plus. This amounts to 1,050. This amounts to $42. This amounts to 1832.88. So I cleaned up the brackets and came up with just one value. And now we're going to add it all up and make sure that your final answer has a dollar sign. Okay? That's important because you will lose half a mark if you don't. Okay? In between, I don't care. So this ends up being $17,924.88. Okay, that's my final answer. So if you wanted a breakdown, right, the parts and labor coming up with all of that would be 1 mark, right? Then I'd be looking at, are you doing this, right? There will be marks associated with that. So I'm looking, do you know what percentage to apply to each category, so to speak, right? So do not add taxes to this. It happens enough times, right? Somebody will be like, beautiful answer, everything is done beautiful, and then it goes times 1.12. It's like, no, or times 1.07 because we only do 7% when it's private. Then you're double taxing. Don't do that. You're done there. Number 3, you want the total purchase price of a car sold privately. And then you can also assume it's used, right? The seller is asking for $5,500. The book value is $4,900, right? So those two differ. A diagnostic test, that a diagnostic or a tune-up, anything like that goes under parts and labor. Okay, diagnostic for $45. A lien search, they do mention a lien search for 18 bucks. There's a safety check for 45. Calculate the cost of the car, and that's assuming after tax. So you can add that to your notes there. And so this is a private sale. And notice that parts and labor is only this, so I don't have to do the parts and labor on the side here. Mind you, it could have also been completely omitted, like this question could have been given to you again and not even talk about parts and labor. That's fine, you just don't worry about it. So, private sale, it's the actual asking price plus the greater of the two, which in this case is the asking price, so that comes in here, and you multiply that by 0.07 every time. If it's a private, it's times 0.07 plus safety, which is 45, right? You add 5% to that. The lien search, which has no taxes, so it's just 18, right? Plus the diagnostic test, which would be considered parts and labor, that gets taxed 12%. Okay, so purchase price, PST, safety, and you add GST to safety. Lien, there's no taxes on the lien search. If you don't know what a lien search is, go back to yesterday's lesson, right? The video's up. And then this is the parts and labor part. Okay, so let's write it down one more time. This gives you 385. This gives you 47.25. 18 is just 18, and then this last one is $50.40. Okay, that gives you a grand total of $6,065. That's your final answer there. Hopefully it's starting to sink in and make sense, and hopefully if you're catching mistakes, I'm not going to say that I'm glad you're making mistakes, but this is the time where you want to be making the mistakes, and then it will click, or you will identify as like, oh, I forgot that part, right? I'm going to add to it. So you're actually making connections, right? And getting it right. So I would say that tomorrow you can be, ready for some kind of an AC, right? AC, remember, that those are little pop quizzes we mark together, but new and used, right? You got to be comfortable with both of them. And let's go to question 4 on the back side, page 9. 4 is, Harry found a car, wants to buy it, and it's a private again. The price of the car is $18.95. Harry's friend examined the car and recommended that Harry install a new battery. Okay, you're gonna need a new battery and get a tune-up for $185. Safety will be $50, right? There's your safety. the book value of the car is 2,700. Okay, how much will this cost Harry? And that's assuming after tax. If it says before tax, then it would actually be fairly simple, right? Don't have to worry about all those, the 7% here, the 5% there, it just wouldn't apply. So after tax, so private, you have the actual price that that is being asked for the car. You put that down, you're going to pay that for sure. Then it's the greater of the two, right? The actual purchase price and the book value. The book value is higher. So that is what is you're going to pay PST on. Okay. Then you're going to need a battery and a tune-up. Oh, I didn't do the parts and labor on the side, so never mind. I'm just going to do that here quickly. Right, parts and labor over here. That is 129 for the battery and a tune-up for 185. Just going to add that up on the side there. That's 314. Okay, so this is just side. I see that you're doing the work there. So back to this. Purchase price, PST. There is a safety, which is $50. Okay. There's no lien search. So all we do is do the 314 and multiply that by 12%, 1.12, like that, and this is going to give us the total price we're going to have to pay. So that's 1895 plus 189 for this, plus 5250 for this part, and 351.68 for the parts and labor. That would be 2488.18. Always have two decimals for monetary dollar amounts to be safe. Make sure you write that down. I'm going to leave it up there for a bit. And for 5, I'm going to give you, we can do 5. 6, I will give you the answer to. Just looking at my time here. Got 15 minutes. I still want to talk about the pros and cons. We'll do that tomorrow. We'll finish this. Yeah. Okay, so again, Linda bought a car to commute to college. The car's purchase price is $4,500. There's your diagnostic test again for $65. A safety will cost $60. A lien search costs $65. In order to pass the safety, Linda needs to replace 4 brake pads that cost $55 each. The car is bought through a dealer. Calculate the total taxes. They just want the taxes. So it's at a dealer, okay? So you're not using the long formula I just gave you. And what that means is you pay 12% on car, right? And there's no book value or anything like that. So taxes will be, let's figure out the parts and labor again on the side here. Parts and labor. I want to have all just one amount, not all spread out, okay? So you have your diagnostic, which is 65 plus. So we've got that taken care of. Then we have 4 brake pads at $55 each. So that's 4 times 55 like this. Okay. That's 285 for parts and labor. Okay, so that's on the side that I'm doing that work. So this is your diagnostic, this is the brake pads. So taxes only, okay, taxes only, we take the 4,500 and we'll multiply that by 0.12, okay, because this is the taxes we will have paid on the car. I'm kind of breaking it down a little bit. The safety, right, we paid $60 and its safety is always taxed 5% no matter what. If it's dealer or private, it doesn't matter. I will pay no taxes on the lien search, right? So that 65 there is really just taking up space, right? Like for our purposes, we do not include that in our calculation. But we still pay 12% on parts and labor every time. Like that. So this, I will say this, 12% on car, 5% on safety, 12% on parts and labor. Okay, so when you do that separately, you get $540 for the first part here. You get, I almost got that. So that's $3 for this, and 285 times 0.12 is 34.20 for this part here. So that's 577.20 cents. Okay. So this is taxes only, and I will make a note. Note: lien is taxed 0%. Okay. So in case you're wondering what happened to the lien, why isn't there a 65 somewhere else yet, right? It's because we did not have to worry about it. It's not taxed. So you don't include it at all. Okay, so can you just go to 6 and I will tell you what you should be getting for each scenario. You get for this, they're comparing two cars, one being bought privately, one being bought through a dealership. And I encourage you to do these, right? So the first one you should get $52.39 for car one. That'd be the total cost of buying that one. And the second car is $54.88. So in this case, obviously car one would be better, and you find the difference to determine how much you would be saving under car one. So I just want to show you something here before we go today. You can go to Manitoba Public Insurance, okay, when you're about to buy a car, and they have the word that I forgot to earlier, bill of sale, right? So if you want a sample bill of sale, you can download the PDF, print it out, and you just fill it in, right? So the date, you the seller, right? So sometimes it's under more than one name, right? And you agree for how much you're gonna sell it for, and then the buyer has to fill in the information here. And then obviously, and this AutoPack will ask you for this, okay? So you have to fill it out properly, right? The year, make, model, right? So 2008 Honda, Civic. The VIN is that that long serial number that a car has, usually by the dashboard. the mileage or what the kilometers are on that car. So you have to write that down, and everybody signs down here. So yeah, so there you check the box whether you're buying it as is, if it's a private, or if there are certain conditions that need to be met. And then the back side, I guess, has all the instructions here. So it says here, when you purchase a vehicle privately in Manitoba, you will also need the following documents to insure your vehicle. Okay, you need the bill of sale that I just showed you, a valid certificate of inspection, that is the safety, COI, right? Transfer of ownership document, which is located at the back of the vehicle registration. Okay, when you register your car, right, you get like a little printout from MPI, which you put in your dashboard. You keep it in the car in case you get pulled over, right? You're speeding or whatever. I'm just kidding. You're not going to speed, but you need that registration. The back of that needs to be signed as well. Okay, so these are the three things you need. I'm going to show you a certificate of inspection. Okay, this is what it looks like. Also found in the Manitoba Public Insurance website. And so what you're really looking for is here in this corner here. If you don't pass, right? If you don't pass the safety, right, then you obviously need to take care of whatever didn't pass. And look at all the things that the mechanic needs to look for. They look for the thread in your tire. Like if your tires are not, if the thread is worn out too much, you're gonna have to replace your tires. Wiring in the battery here, see? Wiring in the battery. Tires, wheels, clearance, ball joints, steering linkage, fuel system, wheel bearings. They check all those things under the hood, under the car to make sure it's safe. And so this needs to be with, so when you go and insure your car, you bought it privately, you need to have this and make sure it is still valid, because if there will be a date here somewhere and it's 6 months after that you can use it, that it's still valid for. 6 months after the original date. And so then you bring that with, and then you can insure the car. I will tell you something else though, which I found out the other day. When do you not need a safety? And here it is, Manitoba Public Insurance website. Exemptions. A vehicle registered in Manitoba that's being transferred to a spouse, common law, a child, there it is, right? A stepchild, there it is, right? So if you're transferring that car within the family, so if your parents or guardians give you a car, you don't need a safety, right? So that's, oh, driver's ed, you're learning that in driver's ed? Okay, good. I didn't take driver's ed, so I learned all these things the hard way, okay? So anyways, I just wanted to share that with you. A lot of students have no idea what comes with it, right? So I just wanted to make sure you understand what comes with it. Okay, that's it for today, guys. Tomorrow we'll do more. Make sure you show up on time, okay? All right. Have a good one. You can sign